What's up, y'all? Let's do this. Hi guys, welcome to Nicky's World. I'm Nicky, your host, and today guys, I want to talk about growing up intersex and why as an intersex DSD person, I think women have it easier than men, and I'm going to explain the reason why for that, and I'm going to explain my justification for all that. But before we go any further guys, if you guys love Nicky's World so much, seriously guys, please consider donating a cup of coffee for me, because for a price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and Cumberland Farms, guys, you guys help keep this podcast show alive. You guys help me curate more stories, more topics like this to talk about. I do accept Bitcoin donations. I am on Locals, guys, if you guys want to support and sponsor this podcast show. I also do post behind-the-scenes content and stuff that I normally would not post on all my other social media platforms. Alright? If you guys love Nicky's World so much, seriously guys, please hit that like, subscribe, please give me a review. Good, bad, and the ugly. And also guys, I forgot to mention, I do accept Bitcoin donations. And also guys, if you guys want to support me through my affiliate links, which are Podbean, Amazon, eBay, and Shibari Study, the link's in the description below. Alright? And before we get this show on the road, literally guys, if you guys love this episode and any of my other episodes on Nicky's World, please consider sharing this across all the social media platforms that are out there today. Alright. I'm on the road. I'm on the way to work. Even though it's my day off, I still come in, help them out a little bit, and then afterwards head right back home, you know. So I'm on the way. I'm diapered up as always, you know. I gotta have my diapers on because boy, oh boy, I do need them. Yep, I really do. Alright? So anyway, as y'all heard in the beginning, the topic of the show for today, I want to talk about growing up intersex. And as an intersex DSD person who happens to have Kalman syndrome, I'm starting to realize that in this world and society, as if you're a biological woman, you have it easier than men. You really do. And I see that as an intersex DSD person. I see that as someone who has Kalman syndrome, okay? I have Kalman syndrome, which is an intersex DSD condition And DSD, for those of y'all who don't know, is called disorders of sexual development. It's a new term for what they traditionally would call intersex. Okay, so it's a term that got replaced in 2005, and it goes way far back. All right, but I want to talk about this because growing up as an intersex DSD person who happens to have Kalman syndrome, I was always taught, and raised as a boy. Growing up. Now, I'm at an age now where I can be me, and society has accepted people like me. They have. They really have. People like me today who have Kalman syndrome are largely accepted in society. Who are largely like accepted and like raised just to be you, just to be a person, not to be anybody else. Yeah, it is. But growing up, I was always expected to grow up to be a man, to grow up to be like a boy, or eventually to grow up to be a man. I was expected of that because being an intersex person in an Asian culture, men and boys are more prized than women and girls. In Asian culture, in mostly Eastern culture, women are not as prized or not as valued as boys and men. It is. And as an intersex person, they couldn't accept people like me. So I was forced to grow up, or forced to be raised as a boy, and forced to grow up as a boy who they thought I would grow into being a man. Coming to a Western civilization like America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and like that, the thing gets flipped and reversed. It does. It gets flipped and reversed because in the West, they value women and girls over guys. Whereas in Eastern cultures and Asian cultures, men are prized and valued than women. Look at the Taliban, for example. Taliban, they value men over women. They do, because their society and culture that places a higher value on men than it is on women. Okay? Asian cultures are like that. Asian cultures is where, for example, in China, you have like couples who place a high premium if their kid is a boy. If it's a girl, then it's deemed to look down on, to look like beneath them. But if that couple happens to have an intersex kid, then they're forced to grow up into either sex, either gender, and they're forced into it. That's why, for me, growing up as an intersex DSD person, I was always forced to grow up as a boy who would eventually grow up into being a man, because my parents, under that culture, They value men and boys over women and girls. They do. But now, as an intersex DSD person, in a Western culture, Western society, women and girls are more valued than men and boys. They are. So, society right now values, basically they place a value on like women and girls. They do. And for people like me, as an intersex DSD person who happens to have Kalman syndrome, I see the reality for what it is. I see the revelation. I see the realization of it all. I do. I see it for what it is. For example, guys, I see the fact that as an intersex DSD person and someone who has Kalman syndrome, I see the world where if you're a girl and a woman, you're more valued in society than if you're a man or a boy. It is. It is. And for me, as an intersex DSD person who's neither a man or a woman, although I do get listed as a woman because of my genetics, my genetic condition, my chromosome makeup and all that, I do get treated more like a girl than a guy in the West. Okay? Because in the West, they see people like me and they go, oh, we're going to treat you more like a girl because it's easier, it's safer, okay? But in an Asian culture that I grew up on, they tend to treat me more like a guy because they prize men and maleness more than femininity and femaleness. They do. And for people like me who have an intersex DSD condition, we're often stuck in the middle. We're often stuck. Some cultures, I'll say this, ladies and gentlemen, some cultures prize one sex over the other, and that's cultural specific. That's not civilization specific. Some cultures prize women. Some prize men. Okay? Some do. So as a result, certain sexes in certain cultures and certain ethnicities have an advantage. They have it easier than you, me, and everyone else. They really do. I hate to say this. They really do. And as a result, guys, people like me have it harder. We have it harder because we're always forced into a box. We're always forced into either box, okay? We're always forced into like male or female or other. We are. We literally are, guys. But now, I see the change in society. I see that people like me are starting to be more normalized, more understood that, look, intersex kids are born. They're born with these problems, just like autistic kids and Down syndrome kids. Okay? Just like that. But like me, I'm starting to notice society is waking up and going, yeah, we realize people like you exist. People like you are born in this world. People like you come to this world with so many problems, so many issues, so many faults, and all this and this and this. They realize that. They do. They really do. So that's why people like me, growing up, and when I started growing up as an intersex person, I was always forced to grow up like a teenage boy who ultimately was pushed to growing up like a man. I was forced into that, and something that I felt uncomfortable with, because I could never fit the standard for what they consider to be a man and what they consider to be a boy. I couldn't. My body, my intersex body, no matter what it looks like, I can never, ever fit the standard. I can't. The sad fact is, guys, as an intersex DSD person growing up, I was always pigeonholed into manhood. But my body, my intersex DSD body, could never fit into it. Could never. Although my parents prized men, because in Asian culture, men carry the burden, men carry the name, the family name. Me as an intersex DSD person, they look at me and go, you don't carry the family name, you don't carry this, and this. Why should we prize you? So for people like me, I was never prized. I was never valued. I was never. People like me were never placed a value or premium. We were never placed any premium. Nope. And the thing is, as an intersex DSD person growing up, I was always pigeonholed into being a guy. I was always pushed into it. I was always pushed into it. The sad thing is, it was often stressful. It was often traumatic. Just trying to grow up to be a boy, trying to grow up to be a man. Because the reality is, I couldn't fit their stereotype. I couldn't fit their rigid social rules for what they say is considered being a man. I couldn't. Growing up, I always looked way too young to look like a man or a boy. I always did. I always looked like a young kid. Even today, guys, I tell people this. When women look at me and I tell them my actual age, they think I look way younger than my age. Yeah, it really does. They really think I look like I'll say this. They think I look like a 27-year-old. And when I tell them my actual age, they're often shocked. They're often like going like, wow, we didn't know that. Yeah. That is the reality. That is basically the ugliest truth out there. It is. It really is, guys. And for me, growing up, people always tried to treat me like a guy. They always did. I always knew I could never be a guy. I could never fit into manhood. I could never fit into what they consider to be a man or a boy. I can't even basically fit into what is considered a guy. Give you an example, guys. When I was growing up as an intersex DSD person, my mom would always buy me men's clothes, okay? Clothes that looked like I could drown in them, okay? Like, for example, growing up, my mom would always buy me size 36 men's jeans because she thought that I would look like a guy dressed in that. But knowing knowing my body, I couldn't fit a 36. I would have to wrap the belt so tight that I wouldn't fit into it. So, growing up, I had clothes that were so huge that it looked like I was a kid basically in too big of a clothes. Okay? So, growing up, I always hated wearing men's clothes because I never fit into them. My body frame, my skeleton frame, and my body composition never fitted into those clothes because my mom, for me, growing up, she prized men and males more than women. Okay? She wanted to have all boys because her culture demanded it. Her culture imposed it. Her culture said, you have to raise this intersex kid as a boy because that's what we prized. That's what we value. We valued boys over girls. But now, living in a Western culture and a society that is more accepting, more open, more inclusive of people like me, they value women and girls over men, and people like me are oftentimes raised as either a girl or a tomboy girl, which means you were raised like a tomboy, but you were raised in a way that certain things that girls can do, certain things that tomboys, that people like me can do, but we were not allowed to show it. We weren't. But the funny thing is, guys, growing up, I was always forced to be a man or a boy. I was always forced that because of how Asian culture looks at men and women. They do. Asian culture values men and women over boys and girls. They do. There is no way out of it. There isn't, guys. There isn't any way out of it. My culture, they place a value on boys and men more than women and girls. They do. They place a high value. And for people like me, I was shoved, forced, pushed into all the male crap, all the maleness and all that shit. I was shoved into it, knowing that I was never going to fit into that, no matter how hard you tried. Yeah, I was shoved into it like no tomorrow. But now I reach a point in age where society has accepted people like me and has basically said we let them grow up to whatever they want to be. If they want to grow up into women, that's great. If they want to grow up to men, that's fine too. Yep. And people like me now, we can choose whether we want to side more with the women or side more with the men. In my case, as an intersex DSD person who happens to have Kelman syndrome, I side more with women than men. That's why, for example, on all my insurance documents and in all my medical records, I'm listed as female than male. I am for a particular reason, because I have an intersex DSD condition. I happen to have like Kelman syndrome, which is a genetic rare disease. Okay, it is. And as a result, guys, I'm listed more female than male. I am. And the reason for that, guys, is because I don't see myself as a man. I don't see myself as a biological man for a number of reasons. I don't. It's because I can never fit the male standard. I don't have a fully grown male body. That's never going to happen. I mean, science can try all they want, but we're not there yet. We're not there at Star Wars and Star Trek level. We are not. But like I said, I'm never going to be able to fit into the male stereotype, the male psychology, mentality, and all that stuff. I'm never. So that's why for me, as someone who has Kelman syndrome, who is an intersex DSD person, I fit more neatly in women, and especially tomboy women. I do. I fit into that mold because I know I can never fit into the male mode. I can never fit into men and all that shit. I can never, no matter how hard you try, I can never. That's why I am always like kept I'm always kept that way. I am. And the surprising thing, ladies and gentlemen, surprising thing, as an intersex DSD person, I can easily fit women's clothing more than men's clothing. I can. It's a surprising shocker. Because of my intersex body, my intersex frame, I can easily get away with about, I'm going to say, 90% of all women's clothing. I can get away with it, but there's a 10% that I can never get away with because I don't have a fully female body. I don't have a biological female body. I don't. Essentially, I don't have it. So instead, guys, I just have an intersex body, and I can fit neatly into both men and women's clothing, no problem. Although for me, most times, I prefer women's clothing over men's clothing because men's clothing feels like huge and I drown right in it. Whereas women's clothing fits me to a T, fits me comfortably, and I don't have to worry about drowning into it. I don't. So, I literally can get away with it. But the reality here is, guys, and the reality I see this here, guys, as an intersex DSD person, I think like this. Women and girls in Western society have an advantage over men. They have an advantage because they can get away with things that biological men and boys could never get away with. Yeah, I see that. I see that biological advantage. And in Western culture, I see that Western culture values women and girls over men and boys. I see that. I see how they value that. They value women and girls over men and boys. I see that every day. I see that all the time. And it's not even funny. It isn't. Okay? And being an intersex DSD person growing up, I see the reality that people like me, we live in like what I call the in-between, where we can choose whether we want to side with the guys or the girls. But the way we see society as right now, we just sit there and go, yeah, girls are, it's like this. Girls are more valued than guys. And that's why, for me, as an intersex DSD person who has Kalman syndrome, I tend to side more with the girls than the guys, and I tend to fit comfortably around girls than I do around guys. Guys, on the other hand, I say this, they make me feel intimidated. They make me feel like I'm inferior, and guys make me feel like I'm not valued. Where women, on the other hand, they make me feel like I'm valued. They make me feel like I'm a person. They make me feel like I'm part of society. I'm part of everyone. That I'm like included. But with guys, I don't see that, and it's very difficult. It is very difficult for that, and that's why sometimes, as an intersex DSD person, I don't see that. I don't. I really don't. I really don't. Yeah. So anyway, I'm here at work right now, so I gotta get in, help them out a little bit, and then get the heck out. Okay. So anyway, guys, I thank you guys for listening to Nicky's World. I'm Nicky, your host. I will see y'all soon. Bye for now. You just listened to an episode of Nicky's World. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.